It was a crisp autumn morning at Columbia University, and the campus buzzed with anticipation. Students moved quickly across the quad, maple leaves swirling at their feet, their backpacks slung lazily over one shoulder. Minds split between midterms and the rare celebrity guest appearing on campus that day. Caroline Leavitt, age 27, the youngest White House press secretary in U.S. history, was scheduled to deliver a guest lecture on Gen Z's political rise. She was known not just for her poise under pressure, but for her unwavering commitment to faith, freedom, and truth, qualities that had made her both a rising star in conservative circles and a lightning rod for criticism in liberal ones. Inside the Grand Hamilton Hall auditorium, hundreds of students packed into the rows, some eager, others skeptical, and a few just there for the spectacle. Cameras from campus media crews lined the back wall, buzzing quietly as students whispered about the event. But before Caroline was set to speak, the stage was owned by another figure entirely. Professor Adrian Radcliffe, tall, gaunt, dressed in an unbuttoned tweed blazer over a faded band tee. He was Columbia's resident provocateur, a self-described intellectual anarchist with tenure and zero patience for tradition. He wasn't just an atheist, he relished dismantling belief, ridiculing religion, and pushing students to abandon infantile fantasies for the cold, hard beauty of rationalism. "Let's begin with a bit of truth," he said, pacing across the stage like a barrister ready to tear into a witness. Jesus Christ never existed. He's a fictional character, a composite of ancient sun gods and regional myths. Virgin birth? Borrowed from Horace. Resurrection? A cheap plagiarism of Mithras. Walking on water? That's just poetic nonsense. A man rising from the dead is a tale fit for ghost stories, not grown-up discourse. Some students chuckled, others sat wide-eyed, uncertain whether to laugh or lean forward. "And let's not forget the myth of Mary," Radcliffe continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "A Middle Eastern teenager, pregnant without sex, visited by angels. If that were in the tabloids, we'd call it delusion. But because it's in an old book, we bow to it." He leaned forward dramatically. "And please don't get me started on the wise men following a star, astrology dressed up in religious garb. If someone claimed this today, we'd suggest medication. But in scripture, we call it holy." Laughter broke out. A few students whistled. Radcliffe smirked wider. "You know what bothers me the most?" he continued. "The sheer arrogance of thinking the creator of the universe needed a human mother, a wooden cross, and a tombstone to make a point. That's not divine. It's bad storytelling." The auditorium rippled with unease. Phones went up. Students recorded. TikTok accounts buzzed silently. Then the doors creaked open. Caroline Leavitt entered, wearing a tailored black coat over a navy blouse, hair pulled neatly back, her expression calm but burning with purpose. She walked slowly down the center aisle. Her heels clicked sharply on the tile floor. Each step a silent challenge. The murmurs swelled. "That's her." She heard him. "Oh no, this is going viral." Radcliffe didn't turn. He smirked, sipping from a battered mug. "Ah, right on cue, the White House envoy from Neverland." Caroline stopped near the podium. Her voice, soft but unwavering, cut through the room. "Professor Radcliffe," she said, "I didn't come here to debate theology, but I won't stand by while you mock the foundation of billions of people's lives. I am one of them. And so, with respect, your ridicule isn't brilliance. It's cowardice dressed as cleverness." Gasps, phones lifted, record buttons tapped. Radcliffe turned, eyebrows raised. "Ms. Leavitt, will you be blessing us with a sermon next, or perhaps telling us how angels sing when you enter a room?" A few students laughed. Caroline didn't. "I'm not here to perform," she said. "I'm here to defend the truth. You call Jesus a myth? Tacitus, a Roman historian, mentioned his execution under Pontius Pilate. Josephus, a first-century Jew, recorded his influence. Those aren't Christian texts." Radcliffe waved a hand. "Fragments, hearsay, written decades later by people desperate to make a legend stick. Show me a contemporary Roman record, and maybe I'll take you seriously." Caroline took a step up. "So you dismiss all historical testimony that doesn't fit your worldview?" That's not scholarship, Professor. That's intellectual laziness. Radcliffe chuckled. You're quoting Tacitus like he was CNN. He wasn't there. And Josephus? Half his writings were manipulated by early church scribes. You're building a house on sand. A few students shifted uncomfortably. One whispered, but isn't that true of all ancient history? Radcliffe heard him. Yes, but the difference is, I'm not the one claiming a dead man came back to life and floated into the sky. The room buzzed again. A male student raised his hand. But if it's all fiction, why do so many still believe it? Radcliffe rolled his eyes. Because people are desperate for meaning, and religion sells simple answers to complicated questions. You don't have to think, you just have to kneel. Caroline's voice cut through. You're wrong. Faith doesn't suppress thought. It inspires it. That's why the first universities were built by Christians. That's why abolitionists fought with scripture in their hands. Jesus didn't silence minds, he awakened souls. Radcliffe crossed his arms. Jesus awakened political power. That's what this is. That's what you are. A polished shell spokesperson for a dying myth. I'm not here for politics, Caroline said. I'm here because you insulted the faith of millions, and no one challenged you until now. Students leaned forward. Some began clapping quietly. Radcliffe snapped. This is propaganda, a political stunt. Caroline looked him dead in the eye. No, this is standing up to a bully. Another student, a young woman near the back, stood up. I'm not religious, she said, but I don't think he should be mocking people's beliefs. That's not teaching. That's tearing down. A guy in the second row added, yeah, even if I don't agree with everything she says, at least she's not calling people delusional for believing in something bigger. Radcliffe reddened, gripping the podium tighter. Caroline turned to the students. Faith and reason aren't enemies. They're partners. Science tells us how the world works. Faith tells us why it matters. The room filled with murmurs, some students nodding, others typing rapidly, uploading clips to their socials. Radcliffe opened his mouth again, but hesitated. For the first time, he didn't have a ready retort. And in that moment, Caroline stood taller, not just in stature, but in spirit. Outside, the press waited. Caroline stepped into a crowd of microphones and camera flashes. Ms. Leavitt, what just happened in there? A conversation that needed to happen, she said, brushing hair from her face. Not everyone has to believe in Jesus. But mocking him, mocking Mary? That doesn't make you brilliant. It makes you cruel. Do you think religion belongs in academia? I think truth belongs everywhere, she said. And faith isn't the enemy of truth. It's often by the beginning of it. Some are calling this a religious ambush. Was it planned? Not at all, she answered. I was there to speak on politics and Gen Z, but when I heard someone tearing down everything I believe in, what millions believe in, I couldn't walk away. I chose to speak up, not as a politician, but as a believer and an American. How do you respond to those who say faith has no place in a public university? Caroline's eyes didn't flinch. Ideas belong here. All of them. If we say only one worldview is welcome, we're not doing education. We're doing indoctrination. What message do you want young believers to take away from this? Never be ashamed of your faith, she said. Never feel like you have to hide what gives your life meaning. The world needs people who believe in something beyond themselves. Later that day, social media ignited. A TikTok video titled White House Press Secretary Destroys Anti-Christian Professor hit 300K views in an hour. Within 5 hours, it crossed 1.2 million. By morning, it had over 4 million views. Hashtag Caroline Claps Back trended nationally on X. Clips of the confrontation filled Instagram stories. YouTubers uploaded reaction videos titled Caroline versus Atheism, Who Won? Gen Z Christians flooded the comments. Finally, someone stood up for us. She said what we've all been thinking. A campus atheist group tried to spin the event as political theater, but their post was quickly ratioed. Comments flooded in. This wasn't politics. It was about respect. You don't have to agree with her to see she handled that with grace. Fox News ran the headline, Faith Strikes Back, Leavitt School's Ivy League Elitism. Even some liberal outlets couldn't ignore it. A journalist from NPR tweeted, "I may not share Caroline Leavitt's faith, but her defense of it was composed, factual, and gutsy. That deserves attention." By evening, Caroline's follower count on X had doubled. She tweeted, "I didn't go to Columbia to debate, but sometimes truth demands a voice. Faith is not fiction." The post had 86K retweets in 6 hours. Meanwhile, on campus, students couldn't stop talking. Study groups paused to rewatch the clip. Flyers went up for a student discussion titled, "Faith and Facts, What Do We Really Know About Jesus?" A Muslim student posted, "I don't believe Jesus is divine, but I respect what she did." Standing up for faith in a room like that takes courage. A professor from another department emailed his class, "Whether you agree or disagree, I encourage you to watch today's exchange." It was a master class in civil discourse. Back in his office, Radcliffe sat at his desk watching the videos. He didn't smile, he didn't frown, but he did open a bookmarked copy of Tacitus, and for the first time in years, he read it slowly.